Hello, this video is going to show how to replace the condenser on a 2018 to 2024 Toyota Camry. This is my 2022. Unfortunately, what happened is, I guess when I was driving, a rock came up and hit the condenser and caused a leak. So it needs to be replaced. Unfortunately, I'll try to stitch in a clip of that. You can see the dent in the condenser. I guess a couple notes to start off the video. The first thing is I want to mention I'm not a professional mechanic, so the stuff that works for me might not be the correct way to do it, but it's the way that I found worked for me. And from what I've seen of the build of the car, it does seem to be a correct way to do it. Also, clearly, I'm not a professional videographer, and I apologize in advance. I'm actually taking this video the next day. I apologize in advance for everything being in vertical. I know YouTube is sometimes a little picky about that, so I apologize. But with that being said, the condenser replacement was actually pretty easy. There's a couple spots that are a little bit tricky that we'll go over in the video, but I do kind of like how they designed the connections for the condenser. It actually came out fairly easy. So a couple things to note: if you're watching this video, you've probably already determined that it's the condenser that's your issue, but if you haven't, I wouldn't necessarily rely on that. Obviously, your AC system, it could be anything. It could be your compressor, it could be your evaporator, which you'd probably hope not, but it's always possible. And obviously too, it could be expansion valve, Schrader valve. I know in a car that I had in the past, it was actually the Schrader valve, and it took us a while to figure out where it was coming from. But if you're not sure, take it to a professional, have them leak test it. I would personally recommend probably avoid the dealership. I think they were charging like $450 just to leak test it. So I feel like if you go to your local mechanic, they can usually do it for $100, $150. So I would do that. And then from there, obviously, once you leak test it, if you've determined it's the condenser, then from there you can go with this video. I would still make sure to have your system evacuated of refrigerant, and make sure it's empty before you pull this apart. And then at the end of it too, I'll mention it later, I would definitely go to a professional to have it charged, unless you have the tools, which more than likely you do not. So but yeah, this is the video. Like I said, it went pretty easily. I did want to put an introduction a day later, and so this will go over how to change a condenser on a 2018-2024 Toyota Camry. All right, so first step, changing the condenser, obviously open the hood. From there, you want to go and take off this plastic piece right here. So there's 5 little plastic clips around it. It's 3, 4, 5. I'm not sure if any of you guys have worked on older Toyotas, but those plastic clips in the past were always terrible. I got a 03 GX470 that those clips, I feel like I break them off every time, but these ones are actually really convenient. Basically for this, what you're going to do is you're going to push it in and then just pull it up. So you push it up like that, and now it's out. So a lot easier than the old ones. And then once you go to put it back in, you can push all the way through and then put it back in there and then push it flat. So I will note too, you might notice throughout the video, it is dark. I actually recorded this backwards. I started recording as I was putting the condenser in, just because there were a couple things that I noticed that might be worth documenting. So this might be looking a little bit backwards. It's probably going to get lighter outside as you go through the video, but I did want to document it. You will see a new condenser. It's actually in there right now, but just wanted to make note of that as you start. But yeah, go ahead and start pulling off this, and then we'll get into the rest of it. So you get this plastic trim piece off. Next, we're going to take off the bumper. So you got a 10mm here, 10mm here, one of these plastic clips right here. I usually just use like a flathead screwdriver, get that in there. Another 10mm, 10mm right here, and then a plastic clip. And then there is a couple 10mm on the bottom. You got one over in the corner. You got one right here. You got one right here. You got one in the middle, and then it's asymmetric. So it's there's a total of 9. It looks like 1, 2, 3. I'm sorry, 7. Yep, 7. So you'll have those, and then you will also have these little clips right in here. Mine's actually missing right now. I need to order a couple more. I feel like every time you take off the bumper, these ones break, but they're tiny clips. You can usually use a flathead. I would go for like a small flathead. Try to pop it out if you can, otherwise go ahead and break it. And then you'll basically just have to order some new ones. And if you guys are interested, I can drop the part number for these new ones in the comments. I know I've just ordered like 7 in the past and just kept them extra because I had to take off the bumper a couple times. But take those off, and then basically when you come to it, this will come off. These clips are not really sitting in right now. They're a little dirty. Not the end of the world, but you'll pull these clips off. I would stick a flathead in there, just kind of pry it a little bit. Don't break it, but pry it. You have those 2 on each wheel well, and then basically you'll just have to pull, and there's some clips along the inside of here that you pull off. And then once it's all taken off, you'll basically pull it back. There is a connection right here that you want to take off, so you'll pull this back and then you'll pull that off. That is for your front safety sensor, so make sure you take that off. And then once you get everything off, you can go ahead and pull it off. If you have a second person, you should use them, but if you don't, just be careful taking it off. You don't want to scratch the paint, whereas especially on the sides over here, if this side comes up and hits this at all, it could scratch that paint, so just be careful there. But yeah, that's after the plastic trim piece. Take off the bumper, and we'll get to the next step here in a second. So you got the bumper off. One thing to note is when you're taking it off, make sure you take off this clip from the front sensor. That's for adaptive cruise control and the other safety sensors that are in the front logo. There's actually just a little clip right here on top. I'm not showing it very well, apologies. A little lip here on top that you push down and then it just slides off. So make sure you take care of that. Don't let the bumper hang by that. Make sure you take that off as you go. And there's that. But once you get to here, we're gonna start just with taking off the air intake here. It's 2 10mm bolts. You'll take those bolts off, and then you can pull this up out of here and set it off to the side or wherever you want to set it, and then hold on to those bolts. So I took off the air intake, which is what's sitting up here. There's the 2 10mm bolts. I just held them up in there. It probably wouldn't hurt to put them in a cup if you don't want to lose them, but I wasn't moving around too much. I did that. So now you get to here. You have this cross member that holds the radiator and condenser in place. So there are several bolts on here. There's 2 10mm right here, top and front. You can see down in there. The front one is the main reason why you need to take off the bumper. You can do it without taking off the bumper, but it's really difficult. And then kind of moving right to left here, this plastic piece, there's a little clip that goes into there. I just kind of yanked on it, came out, and that works just fine. Otherwise you can try to reach it from the back, but I don't think you're gonna be able to get it, so just pull on it, it should come out. You got the horn mounted here, one of them, 12mm. You got this crossbar down here, connected with a 10mm bolt. You'll probably have to push this wire for the hood latch a little bit down to get a socket in there. Or you can just use a regular wrench. I use these socketing wrenches and they work pretty well. But either way, you'll probably have to push it down a little bit just to get something in there to take that off. There's 2 on the hood latch. You don't need to take those off because we're actually going to take this cross member all the way over and we're going to lay it over here. So you can leave those. There's another 10mm on this cross member over here, a lot easier to get to. Another 12mm on the other horn. And then I actually have a 10mm socket on there right now. I should probably pick that up before I lose it. But top and front there again, and then once you take those off, it should just come right up, and then yeah, you can lay it over here and should be good to go. So I'm watching the video back and I realized I forgot a step putting it back together. So there is a connector right here on the bottom of this hood latch. You will have to take this off, and so what it is there's a little tongue on it. You'll pull off this inside wire, and then this piece will actually be mounted to this piece of 19 gauge. So you can kind of see, I'm trying to find it so you guys can find it better. There's a little like hole back there. You can kind of see it down in there. Let me just take this off so you can see it better. It's underneath this cable. And so let me put that clip in real quick so you can see that. So you'll see down in there, you can kind of see it. I'm trying to get there with the light, sorry. Yeah, you can see back in there. So there's that plastic clip on that bottom. Just reach in there with a flathead screwdriver and push those little tongues back. There's one on that side and one on this side. You push those back, and then you can basically just poke that out with your screwdriver. And then this bottom harness right here will come down after you disconnect it from that hood latch, and then you can just let that hang. But if you keep that connected, you won't be able to pull this up over. So you have to push that down and let it hang and get it away from everything else. So step I forgot to mention, I apologize. So to get better access to this high pressure inlet, there's this plastic piece right here on the front that you can actually take off from this other main piece. If you can see inside these little holes, there's a couple little tongues. So if you take a needle nose pliers and you pinch those, and then down here it's actually horizontal. If you pinch those together, that plastic piece will actually come right out. So that's what I've done. And then once you're done, you'll put this plastic piece back in, make sure those plastic tongues grab there. This one down here was a little bit bent, I guess, so I pushed that one back in, and now this is snug on there, so that should hold. Just as far as I know, it's a trim piece, but especially when working on that high pressure inlet, it's easier if you remove that piece, especially when you're working on the ground. And then obviously, yeah, you want to put it back in once you're done too. So you'd have to take off a couple pieces. There's a plastic piece up here that I took off. It's just it's a couple clips. So it'll be in there like this, and it'll be just clipped onto those holes that you see right here. So if you take this from this side right here, you'll see these two little spots, those two little tongues. If you just grab those with a needle nose, you can pull those and then pull that out, and that gets you a little bit easier access to the high pressure line that goes into the bottom of the condenser. This is probably the hardest part of the job. There's a little plastic clip, which I'll show later when I install it, that you have to get off, and it is very difficult. Essentially, you have to break the clip. I mean, you don't have to, but more likely than not, you're going to break the clip. So you break the clip, and then basically from there, it's getting a couple pick tools. I use tweezers, and then just fishing out all the plastic pieces in there, and it does go all the way around the ring. And then once you get all the plastic pieces out, this should be able to pull right out. So that's that. And then up top, you already unscrewed your other line here. You can see it down in there. I think it's a 10 millimeter. So you unscrew that. There's a couple plastic clips here. I already took them off, but there's two right here on either side, and I just used a pliers and pinch those together, and then basically this condenser up front snaps right off. And then once you do that, it should just pull right out. So I'm gonna turn the camera off because I need two hands for this, but yeah, that plastic clip is probably the toughest part. If you can get past that, it should be pretty easy the rest of the way, but yeah, that's a tricky one. So I got it out. It's actually a little bit trickier than I thought, at least I left the bumper on here, so that's part of it. There's this plastic trim piece. I don't even know what it's for, honestly, but there's this plastic piece that runs up along the side that will get in your way. So I basically had to reach down. I don't know if you can see it down there, maybe a little bit. You can see the plastic at least. I just reached down and kind of bent that back with my hand, pushed back the radiator a tiny bit. Obviously, don't want to push it too far, but I pushed it back a little bit, and then I was able to slide up that bottom. I think it was actually the bottom connection for the high pressure line that was getting stuck over there. So got that, and then over here was pretty easy. Dryer came out pretty easy too. So yeah, a little bit trickier than I thought. I mean, if you take off the front bumper, you can take off these plastic pieces and you shouldn't have any issues, but I left them on and I didn't really want to fish them out. So, but I got the condenser out, and that's pretty much it. Now we put a new one back in. So here's a short little video I took of the condenser. You can see right in the middle there where the rock hit and bent those condenser lines. So this is a Toyota branded condenser. You can see actually on the side of the box there. And it did come with this compressor oil and then the two O-rings and the clip for the inlet high pressure line. So I'm gonna use this oil on the O-rings when I put them back together. But I did want to make note of that it did come with the kit. I also ordered some PAG 46 as well, but I'll just go ahead and use this. So yeah, I'll go ahead and put it on the O-rings and put everything together, and then I'll take another video and show you guys what it looks like afterwards. The new condenser is in. One thing I do want to mention, I know some other YouTube videos have pointed out as well, the clip does go this way. So you can see those little clips, those little lips there, they hook onto the inside of this inlet here. So it's a good visual for taking it out. This is the clip I was talking about earlier. This is the one, it's very fragile. It's not very
robust at all. So taking it out, you got to break it, and then also when you go back in, you just have to be a little bit careful. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to oil up these O-rings, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to pinch this plastic clip a little bit, just enough to get these lips past this outside ring. And then once it's inside, I'll push it in and wait till I hear like a small click, and then I'll kind of pull it out a little bit. Don't yank too hard or else it'll break it, but I'll pull it out a little bit so it hitches onto that lip there. And then once that happens, you know for sure it's in. So I'm gonna do that now. All right, so went in pretty easily actually. As long as you line it up straight, it should go in fairly easily. And then, yep, I heard a click. I'm yanking on it a little bit right now, and it's pretty solid. It's tugging on the condenser, so that clip is in there for sure. I will say too, if you're gonna do this job, especially with how fragile these clips are, I'd order a couple extra. I know I have a couple extra. And one thing too is once we recharge this, there's a possibility that that clip is broken and we don't realize it. So having extras even then allows you to slap another one back on there and give it another shot. But putting it in is definitely pretty fragile. And if it breaks, you know, it's definitely good to have a backup. So that's what I would say. But it's in right now. Pull on it and it holds pretty well. And so at this point, basically the condenser's back in, and we'll start putting the car back together.
So apologies, I forgot to show a clip of me putting this back in, but this is the video I have of that plastic piece from earlier. You'll go ahead and put this plastic piece back in, just kind of push that back into those holes there. Push those tongues back with a pick tool or whatever you need to be, and then it should sit on there. That'll be the first piece you put back onto the car, and then we will move on to the top cross member in a second here. Next piece I'm going to put back in is the top rail here. So I did not take off the hood latch. There might be a way to do it, but I didn't really mess with it. So what I did is I basically laid it up out of the way over here. And now that it's back in, what you'll do is you'll just kind of set it on there. Make sure that the radiator and condenser are pushed forward. You want to make sure these bars down here that go in front of the condenser are not being behind it. This part I am probably going to stop recording, but essentially what you'll do is you'll get it to sit down on the radiator condenser and protect those, and then you'll get these two bars sitting in front here for those holes, and then you'll have the two holes here on the top and the front over here as well, and then you'll actually hook these plastic pieces into those little square holes there as well. So that's what I'm going to do now. It's going to be hard to do with one hand, so I'm going to stop recording, but if there's any step I forgot to describe, I'll mention it in the next one thing I'll mention, I'm not going to take it off again here, but it does take a little bit of finesse. There's like a little rubber bumper, probably about like right here. It's maybe like an inch around. This will actually sit on top of that. So you'll kind of push the radiator forward, and then there'll be a rubber bumper in here. And then obviously you got to make sure you line up these bars up front here as well. So that one and that one. And once you line those two up, obviously make sure your plastic's out of the way. Then it should just sit flush on there, and then you'll bolt it back in. All right, so since the last video, there was a step I didn't mention. So the horns obviously go back on this top rail, so 12mm back on those. Put both of those back on this side. One thing you might have noticed in the last video that you actually don't need to do is I did have the hood latch unbolted from this rail, but since I think it's actually connected to the rail as well, there's like a bent piece of I don't know, 18 or 20 gauge there, whatever it might be, that holds in place. So you don't actually need to unbolt that. You can leave those two bolts on that hood latch and leave it that way. And so I went ahead and put those back on, but you don't have to take them off. One thing I will say is this hood latch, this little wire there to pull that open from the interior of the car, you will have to push that down to put in this bolt, which is a 10mm on that crossbar there. And that was 10mm as well, but push that out of the way. It shouldn't be really that big of a deal. And yeah, so now it's all back in there. We'll go ahead and put this back on. There's a couple bolts for that, and then we'll put the bumper back on, and it's all back together then. So this video is already in the video earlier. I apologize, I didn't record myself putting this back together when I was putting the car back together, primarily because I forgot to do it myself. You can do this after you put in the top cross rail there, or you can do it with the air intake, but make sure you re-hook up that connection for the hood latch and then you can go ahead and clip it back up into that hole on the bottom of that little sheet of metal there too. So that's one step I forgot to record. I did want to mention it. Don't forget to do it when you're putting the car back together. All right, so we put the air intake back on. It basically just kind of slides down into the box there and then mounts on with 2 10mm right here and here. And then basically from there, it's putting on the bumper, checking, making sure you didn't leave anything else, and maybe cleaning it out a little bit. And then once the bumper is back on, you're good to go, and you can recharge the system. One thing I will say, I'm going to put the bumper on off camera, but when you put it back on, make sure you hook this back up. This is for the adaptive cruise control and the sensors in the front logo, so make sure you put that on. I'm going to clean mine out a little bit because mine was a little dusty and didn't come off very easily. But that way you'll have to put back on as you're putting the bumper back on. I believe you might be able to just put it back on and then reach in there and connect it, but make sure that it goes back on before you close the hood. One thing I want to note when you're putting the bumper back on, make sure that this plastic part, let me see if I can get it in there. You can kind of see it down in there, that white plastic part. It's the bottom of the actual plastic bumper cover. Make sure that's on top, so you have your wheel well trim piece, that'll be in the middle, and then your bottom plastic skid plate on the very bottom. So make sure that's on the top of both of those, because that will be what holds your screw into place. And then basically you just clip in each of these clips on both sides, and then there will be one little plastic clip up here as well. All right, so we got the bumper back on. One thing to note is make sure your plastic skid plate is up inside of here. I kind of forgot, so I had to pull it off and put it back on, but make sure that's on there. And then there actually is 2 clips right up here as well that go in right here. You put those in, snap that down. Put it in over here as well. Snap that down, and then we'll go ahead and put this plastic trim piece back on, and it should be good to go. So real quick, before we put the plastic trim piece on, you'll see in the video, I actually put it on wrong. There's that front tab on the front. You want to slide that in behind the bumper and then put it down. I fixed it after the fact, but in the video, you'll see it over the bumper, so I wanted to point that out. So we're going to go ahead and put this plastic trim piece back in up on top here once we're done putting the bumper back on. You might remember taking off these plastic clips. So they're kind of neat, actually. So when you take it off, it'll be pushed down like that. What you'll do is you'll push this all the way up through, so it'll look like this. It'll be pushed up all the way through, and then you just basically put it in your hole, whichever one you're going towards. Put it in there. I'm gonna do it with my right hand. I gotta find the hole first, yes. And then once it's up, you just basically push that flat, and it's good to go. So you'll do that for all 5 of them. And then from there, you can recharge the system, which will be over here at your service valve. I recommend for this, take it to a professional if you do not have the tools. I wouldn't use like a recharge can. I know they sell them at like Walmart and stuff, but I would not use those. If you can, take it to a local mechanic. Have them evac the system, get all the moisture out of it, because that moisture will hurt the system if it's left in there too long. And then once they're done, they'll fill it up with refrigerant and put a cap back on, and you should be good to go. So that's the last step there. Condenser should be good. When they refill it, if there's any issues, obviously keep aware of what we talked about earlier, but that is how you change the condenser on a 2018 to 2024 Camry.